You know the feeling when someone oversteps their boundaries so badly it feels like the universe demands justice? That was the atmosphere in our peaceful neighborhood of Cedar Vale last February. It was Black History Month, a time for recognition, reflection, and celebration. Instead, it became the setting for one of the most powerful reckonings I've witnessed in my decades as a community liaison. It began on a Sunday, warmer than expected, when winter softened just enough to hint at spring. I was outside trimming hedges when I heard a raised voice a few doors down. "This is coming down right now." The words pierced the tranquil afternoon, drawing startled glances from several homes. Peering over my gate, I saw Lillian Harper, the newly minted HOA president, storming across the front lawn of Henry and Eleanor Brooks. The Brooks, a retired couple who'd lived in Cedar Vale since its founding, were icons in our community. Lillian's sleek blonde hair was pulled into a tight ponytail, and she carried printed documents like a legal sword. Henry Brooks, a former constitutional law professor, sat calmly on his porch swing, a thick hardcover book on his lap. Eleanor, once a head nurse at the regional hospital, tended to early tulips blooming by the walkway. Fluttering from the porch was a Pan-African flag, vibrant red, black, and green against the white siding. I left my yard work and walked toward the mailbox. My instincts said this wouldn't end quietly. "Mrs. Harper," Henry greeted with dignified calm, "what can I help you with this afternoon?" "That flag," she replied sharply. "It violates Section 9, Paragraph 14 of our HOA guidelines. Only American flags or holiday decor are permitted on street-facing property." Eleanor rose, brushing her hands on her apron. "That section speaks to proper mounting and size. There's nothing restricting the type of flag unless it's explicitly offensive. This flag is part of our culture and heritage. It's here for Black History Month." Lillian bristled. "The board has ruled that any non-national flag compromises the visual unity of the neighborhood. If it doesn't come down immediately, you'll be fined daily." Before another word, Lillian climbed the porch steps and yanked the flagpole. The mount cracked, and she pulled the flag free. In a swift, petty move, she tore it down the middle. "There, problem solved," she said, dropping the fabric onto the porch. Gasps rose from onlookers. Across the street, Amara Mensah, a local reporter who'd moved in last summer, filmed the scene. "You have no right," Eleanor said, her voice shaking with restrained fury. Henry stood and addressed Lillian with gravitas. "That was criminal trespass and destruction of property. Leave our premises immediately while we determine our next steps." Lillian scoffed. "You won't press charges. This is a community matter. I'm upholding the rules." "We've lived here for nearly 30 years, Eleanor said firmly. "This sudden interpretation feels far more personal than procedural." Neighbors gathered now, the Rodriguez family from across the green, the Patel family from the cul-de-sac, and even Charles Norton, the HOA vice president, who looked like he wanted to vanish. "Charles," Lillian snapped, "back me up. Tell them the board's authority is final." Charles hesitated. "We discuss flag sizes, not content, and certainly not physical removal." "So now you're siding with them?" Lillian sneered. After all the complaints about our neighborhood changing, her implication was ugly and didn't go unnoticed. Eleanor pulled out her phone and typed quickly. Henry retrieved the torn flag, holding it like a piece of history. "My father carried a flag like this when he marched in Montgomery," he said, voice steady. "He was beaten for it. I can only imagine what he'd say if he saw this." Lillian folded her arms. "Spare me the drama. This is about aesthetics, not activism." "Is it?" Eleanor asked. "Because you didn't seem bothered by the O'Connor's Irish flag or the Rossi family's Italian one. Your standards seem inconsistent." The crowd murmured. Amara's phone camera stayed trained on the scene. "This is over," Lillian declared. "You'll get an official notice tomorrow." Eleanor smiled slightly. "You may want to stay and explain this to our son. He'll be here shortly." Lillian raised an eyebrow. Why would I need to explain myself to him? He has a vested interest in matters of civil rights and property law, Henry said mildly. Unless he's a lawyer, I don't see the relevance, Lillian scoffed. Actually, came a voice from the crowd, he is. The neighbors parted, revealing a tall man in a tailored suit. Malik Brooks, state prosecutor and noted civil rights attorney, strode forward. His badge flashed briefly on his belt as he removed his sunglasses. Malik Brooks, state attorney's office, he said, extending his hand. Lillian didn't take it. I hear you've been exercising some interesting interpretations of property law today. Her smugness dissolved into uncertainty. I was just enforcing HOA regulations, Malik said, pulling out a notebook. So you know Section 12, Paragraph 4, requiring written notice before enforcement, and that physical removal is only after a 72-hour grace period? Lillian's face blanched. Also, he continued, there's a state statute protecting cultural expression through residential flags, passed 3 years ago. I helped draft it. Phones recorded every second. Amara stepped closer. Destruction of private property is a criminal offense, Malik continued. When paired with racially motivated enforcement, it veers into hate crime territory. That's outrageous, Lillian sputtered. Selective enforcement is documented discrimination, Malik said. Would anyone else like to share their experiences? Hands went up. Stories flowed. The Wallace family's fines, cooking complaints, church gatherings shut down. The pattern was undeniable. Malik closed his notebook. My office is actively investigating HOA discrimination. Cedar Vale just became a priority. He turned to his parents. Do you still have the flag bracket, Dad? Henry nodded. Document everything, Malik said. We'll replace it. From his car, he brought a new Pan-African flag. This one's from our state initiative on cultural equity, waterproof and vibrant. Lillian tried to object, but her authority had vanished. You'll want a lawyer, Malik added as Henry reattached the new mount. Lillian backed away. This isn't over, she mumbled. Actually, Malik said, it ended the moment you tore that flag. Everything else is just fallout. News of the incident spread. Amara's footage went viral, picked up by local and regional outlets. By Tuesday, Lillian Harper resigned from the HOA board, citing personal stress. At the emergency meeting that week, Malik arrived with charts, case files, and a legal team. He presented evidence of systemic bias and proposed sweeping reforms, a policy audit, new elections, diversity training, and oversight. Charles Norton, pale and sweating, agreed immediately. We accept all terms and apologize sincerely to the Brooks family and anyone affected. Eleanor spoke softly. Good intentions mean little without fair implementation. In the months that followed, change took root. A more inclusive board formed, including Amara and Mr. Patel. A culture committee blossomed under Eleanor's leadership. Flags representing heritage flew proudly across Cedar Vale. Lillian sold her house in April. Rumors suggested Malik's team uncovered similar complaints from her previous HOAs, making her resignation a necessity. But the Brooks stand inspired more than neighborhood reform. Malik's investigation expanded statewide, culminating in a press conference on courthouse steps. With dozens of families behind him, Malik announced a class action lawsuit against nearly 30 HOAs. The legislation that followed, known as the Brooks Act, cemented homeowners' rights to cultural expression. Eleanor testified first, her voice unwavering. We tried to be perfect neighbors, believing it would protect us. But acceptance based on perfection isn't real acceptance. The act passed with bipartisan support and national attention. 6 months later, the Brooks hosted a multicultural celebration. Flags lined the fences, foods from every culture filled tables, and the air was alive with joy. I stood beside Henry as twilight settled. Proud of your son? I asked. Immensely, he said, but this, he gestured around us. This is the real legacy. Eleanor joined him. Lillian tore down a flag and gave us the chance to build something stronger. As Malik raised a toast to unity and resilience, children danced with sparklers and laughter echoed through Cedar Vale. Justice, when it comes, can be quiet or loud. That day, it was luminous. New residents now receive a welcome packet with the Brooks Act, a neighborhood history, and a small flag of their heritage, a reminder: you are seen, you matter, you belong. Cedar Vale thrives, its spirit unbreakable, a testament to the Brooks' courage and a community reborn.